better. Because I talked so much yesterday, I sound a bit like the frog, so apologies there.
Well, everyone, thank you for coming. First of all, thanks for coming to the convention and supporting this. This is such a fun convention. It harkens back to the old days of FanX in Baltimore.
I remember those.
Small conventions where you actually get to have access. Carolyn and I met in 1994 at FanX, and I interviewed her.
You were in our 20s, well, you were a teenager then.
We're the same age-ish.
Ish. Hardly.
So,
Could be my son.
My name's Steve Smith. I was the publisher of Monster Scene magazine back in the 90s, and Anthony asked me to sit with Caroline today and talk to her and perhaps prompt if people didn't have questions, but by the looks of you all, I'm sure you've got plenty to talk about. But Caroline, are you ready?
I'm totally ready. I'm going to try and, I might just make a noise to get rid of this, shall I? We're both doing it. You just gave me one. You just gave me a...
You're fine, Caroline. It's terrible for your teeth to do that.
I know.
Any dentists in the house?
You never know.
Got one?
You can't hear us.
Can you hear?
Oh,
okay,
good,
how about that?
Is that better? Yes,
all right.
That's good. Yes,
so,
I'm ready.
I'm sure you all know who we are here with. And I think I first fell in love with Caroline when a lot of guys my age did, was Golden Voyage of Sinbad.
Oh.
And I had heard that originally they were trying to get Raquel Welch for that role.
They were. They wanted a name.
And
yeah.
Boy, aren't we glad that they did not. You have been in other films before.
Yes, I had.
And
yes.
From a very young age, you were in Casino Royale when you were 17.
Yes, I think I was just 17. I can't really say I was in it, but I was an extra in the original Casino Royale, and I was delighted to be able to sit on the side of the set when you had David Niven there and Woody Allen in particular. I remember it was Val Guest. They had 5 or 6 directors, I believe, on that film, and ours was Val Guest. And I said to Val, is it possible for me that we had loads of girls, we were guard girls, and we were dressed in Paco Rabanne, sort of plasticky, shiny stuff. It was very cool. Paco Rabanne is a wonderful designer, and the clothes were great.
Guys, we all know that, right?
Paco Rabanne?
One of our favorite designers.
He was good. Really, yes, it was good. Yes, so I was one of about 20 guard girls there. No dialogue. Actually, one of the lead girls had dialogue, but I was just one of a gaggle of girls. And I remember asking the director, Val Guest, if I could... The other girls, they were making the Dirty Dozen at the time, so you had all these very macho American stars, these wonderful stars, and all the girls said, and I was about the youngest one there, so all the girls said, oh, let's go to the canteen and see them. You know, they'll all be in the canteen now. This was all the, the macho, who was in the Dirty Dozen? Everybody. Everybody, all these wonderful American actors. And I said to Val, I said, do you mind if I just sit and watch what's going on the set? He said, yes. You can sit, don't say anything, just keep very quiet. I said, I will. So I sat, and I just remember being mesmerized by watching Woody Allen and David Niven and all these huge stars working. So I think that was, I hadn't intended to act at all. It wasn't my, I didn't think I was going to do that. I had no aspirations as to be an actress, but it just kind of came about via, I don't know, a mistake or not a mistake really, as happened, but I had no ambition to be an actress, let's say. So in order to be able to sit on the set and watch these people, I learned a lot. I felt like I was a little sponge, sponging, watching these wonderful, technical, fabulous actors working. It's a bit rambling, isn't it? But,
No,
yeah.
I think everyone's going to be fine with that.
Okay.
I do have a question before we just open it up for everyone else, because this is something I've wondered about. Many of us also knew you from Goody Two Shoes, the Adamant video, but you also made another music video with Meatloaf about a year later.
I did.
But that was not your first foray into music. You actually did a little music of your own early in your career.
I did, actually.
With Eric Clapton, Jack Bruce, and Ginger Baker. Little name guys, but obviously session musicians.
Session musicians.
Who went nowhere. But
Yeah.
did that come from, had you wanted to be a singer?
No.
Was it an idea of an agent? Or
No, it so wasn't. I used to sing a bit in the church choir when I was still at school, so I'd sing in the church choir, the local church. But I wasn't very good at singing. I mean, we always had music around the house. My dad was very musical. My mum loved music, and so it was musical house. No, it was my father used to travel up from a little seaside village called Rottingdean in the south coast of England and travel up to London. He was a lawyer in the city, and he got to know a man who was head of Decca, and his name was Steve Beecher Stevens. And Steve, we got to know the family. He had a lovely wife, and we got to know the family. And Steve knew I sang a little bit in the choir, and he said to my father, he said, would she be interested to, we have this wonderful composer, Mark Wirtz, and he just had done something called Grocer Jack, which was a huge hit in the 60s. It would, all this all happened in the 60s. And he said, would she be interested to record a record? He said, oh, I don't know. I'll ask her. So my dad said, do you think you'd be interested in doing a record? I said, no, I really don't think I would. I don't think I'd be able to do it. But I remember I went to see, but afterwards, I went to see Mark Wirtz, the producer, and Mark Wirtz, have you got anything prepared? I said, well, not really, no, to sing. And what popped up in my head was My Guy. It was the Mary Wells. It suddenly popped into my head. He said, try a little bit of that. So I tried a little bit of that. Not very well, I'm hasten to add. But so basically, I found myself within the next 2 weeks at Abbey Road Studios. And I live quite close to there now. So I was at Abbey Road Studios, went along there. Mark Wirtz had put the musician, they put the track down already, so all I had to go in to do was to learn the words and, learn the tune. So I think it took about half a day, maybe a bit longer. My father came with me, and we did this little record, which was called Tar and Cement. But I didn't realise that the musicians on it, on the thing, were Steve Howe, Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker, and Eric Clapton. So, and you can hear, if you ever hear the song, it's called Tar and Cement, which is a sweet song. It's very nice, and I was asked to do some television and with David Frost. Anybody remember David Frost?
Yes.
David Frost show. I was asked to do the television show, which was quite big at the time. And I said, no, I really don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. So they said, okay. So then they handed the record to this wonderful French singer-actress, Françoise Hardy. You know Françoise Hardy, she was in Les Mains, the film. And so she went on to have a hit with it. But it played, quite a bit. But on the back side of the record, the B-side, was a song called Sporting Life. And Sporting Life, you can really hear the guitar, really funky guitar of Clapton and the bass coming through. But the thing is, because I was so young and the words were very inappropriate, and I can kind of remember the words now, it was really from a man's perspective, the vocals. It was saying, I'll do it very quickly, I'm not going to sing it, but I'm getting tired of running round. I believe I'll get married and I'll settle down, because this old nightlife, this old sporting life, it's killing me. I mean, I went to a convent and I was with this convent girl singing these really strong words. It was very strange. Anyway, that was my foray. I've done other stuff as well.
I just find that interesting
It's
that
funny.
you did that, because that is a fact that I only recently discovered about you. And I think that's fascinating.
Thank you.
And I've always believed you were multi-talented, but
Well,
I think someone should reissue that record.
oh no, it's the same.
Absolutely.
I know my mum had a copy, but I think I've since lost it. But apparently you can get it online or whatever, wherever you get these things.
We'll all look for it, won't we?
I did a Pump Me Up song with Gary Newman too. Gary Newman was there.
Really?
Yeah.
That I did not know.
Oh, okay. It was called, a very strange title, I know. It was called Pump Me Up, and again, it was through a journalist friend who said she thinks she'd be interested in doing this song with Gary Newman. And Gary Newman was huge, he'd had cars and was doing, it was in the 80s, this one. So I thought, well, yes, so I went to meet Gary. He was a lovely man, a really sweet, very modest, lovely man, and very articulate and very clever. So I went down to his studio, which is in Shepperton Studio, and it was called Newmar Records. So it was a family affair. So it was him, his mum, his dad, and his brother. And I went, and again, they put the music down. Gary had put the music down, and he'd recorded his bit on the record. Thing was, I mean, it was fine, but it was very high. It was a little bit high for my voice, and I did the best I could. But apparently, it became a long playing record, a 14-inch something. It played for 14 minutes, I think, and it was a huge hit in Italy, which is very strange. It's a strange record. I mean, it's interesting. Again, the other side is, and you can hear Gary. You can hear Gary in the background. And then he asked me to do one of his proper backing singers. Didn't turn up, so I went to do a television. It was a Lulu special at the Empire in Shepherd's Bush. So I went along at the last minute, and we all had to wear white. You know, with Gary for the Pump Me Up, I had to wear this wonderful. He took me to this very strange shop. It was called She and Me. I thought, okay, or was it She and He? She and He. It was called She and He. And so it was a wonderful, actually it was beautiful, it was a drag queen shop. So he took me to this wonderful shop, which I'd never been into before. And I was all dressed in this black latex, kind of before it became very trendy. So I had this wonderful black latex, sort of catsuity thing. And these heels, I don't wear heels, I wear boots. Huge heels, just to do the cover and stuff. So it was an interesting excursion, that's for sure.
That is awesome.
It's funny, isn't it?
He's very talented, and he's still very active.
He is so active, and I believe his daughters are doing some singing and very much. Yeah, he's a fabulous performer. I've seen him perform, and he's really good. Highly recommend it. As is Adam. Adam's still performing.
Yes.
He's brilliant too. So good.
Well, I think your music video, Goody Two Shoes, has got to be one of the most iconic music videos from, I guess, any era, because it was, music videos were still experimental back then, and you had directors like Julian Temple got their start making music videos.
A lot of them did.
And so, but that's just a wonderful video, but to see you in there. How did you get that? Did Adam Ant have a crush on you from Golden Voyage of Sinbad?
Do you know, I don't know, but he got in touch with my agent, and he just said, I would like her for the video. So it was quite simple, really. So, yes, so I got to do it and work with him. He was fantastic to work with. He knew so much about film, because that's kind of what he ultimately wanted to do, was film. And he did do. He's a really good actor, but he's a very wonderful performer too. He's very passionate about the music, and I found him delightful. He spent two and a half lovely days in it sounds odd, in a sort of it was a sort of an asylum outside of London. It was an asylum, disused, but very beautiful Gothic building, and that's where we shot Goody Two Shoes. We had Mike Mansfield was the director, and Adam. But Adam like Ray Harryhausen, had all the storyboards done, so he knew exactly what he wanted. Very clever man. Yeah. And he was very sweet. He actually asked me out. And my girlfriend, Jane, my friend, who's my agent, who had a huge crush on Adam, but I hadn't met her at that time. She said, he asked you out, and what did you say? I said, no. I said, but thank you for asking. She said, you said no. She said, I used to go to all his concerts and bombard him with, used to fly at him, and yeah, so that was quite funny. I don't know why, I don't know, it's funny. Anyway, yeah. Silly story.
Yeah. Well, or sad Adam.
Oh, he's a really nice man, though. Yeah.
I think instead of us just talking, which I could do.
Me too.
But does anyone want to ask questions?
Yeah, feel free, and I don't mind what you ask within reason.
The new Avengers episode that you did, any stories about that, particularly the fight scene with Joanna Lowe?
Oh, with Joanna. Yes, did you hear the question? It was the new Avengers I did. It was called The Angels of Death, I think, wasn't it? Something like that, with Joanna Lumley, who we used to stick our false fingernails on when we were modelling together. That's what we used to do. She's wonderful. She's fabulous. I just finished Star Crash at that time, and I'd been doing a lot of sort of fight scenes, in that. I've kind of had a person to do a few moves with, and so I was doing quite a lot of that stuff. And I was chosen. Brian Clements, wonderful Brian Clements, had written the new Avengers, and I think he put my name forward for one of the angels in that, for Angels of Death. And so I came in, so I was fairly fit at that point. And I remember we had to do the fight scene, we had to do it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to really do it. So when we started to block it, the director, and I can't remember his name, he said, Caroline? I said, yes. I said, aren't I doing it? He said, yes. He said, but this is, it's not you, it's Joanna. You have to lose. I said, okay. So and we're such good friends. He said, no, you've got to, pull back a bit. Anyways, it was quite fun. No, we had good friends. I see her a lot. She's the nicest, most brilliant woman who does wonderful documentaries. She shoots them all over the world. She does the Silk Trail. She goes all around India. She's just a fabulous, wonderful woman. She does a lot for charity too, which is great. Love her. That was a nice question, thank you.
In the back.
I hold him, that's better. Yeah. That's much more comfortable. Yes?
I was hoping you might be able to talk about working with Paul Nash.
Oh, Paul Nash, I never get asked that. I adored Paul Nash. Alaido del Dia, Alaido del Dia, Aldi. Alaido del Diablo. Yes, that's Howl of the Devil. Yes, that's right. Yes. I found him extraordinary to work with. It was interesting because Paul didn't speak much English, and I didn't speak a lot of Spanish, little. So we met. He'd asked me to do the film, and I knew the role I was to play, which was to be the maid, Carmen, and I was to be the maid to look after his son, who Sergio now is a wonderful producer and just the sweetest man ever. No, I found Paul delightful to work with. It was tricky because he wanted to shoot it in English, but because he felt his English was not good enough, it was a strange way to work because he said, you do it in English. We had an interpreter. You do it in English and I'll do it in Spanish. So it was kind of a strange way to work because he did do that. I was speaking English and he's Spanish. And I haven't seen the film for many, many years, so I didn't quite know how it would gel. But I found him extraordinary to work with, very, very sincere, very passionate about what he was doing. He wanted everything to be done the right way, and very kind. He was so kind on the shoot, because it was quite a hard shoot. We were shooting in the middle of Spain, and we were staying in this wonderful, I think it had been, not a nunnery, what's the other thing? Something like that. Monastery. It was a monastery. It was an old monastery. So it was actually quite spooky. I found it, because he slept in his house, but myself and Howard Vernon, some people remember Howard Vernon from all the horror films, and fabulous actor. We stayed there together, not in the same room, but we stayed in the same monastery, so it was very austere. But I do remember about it when we had a day off. They had a lovely swimming pool, outside swimming pool, again made of all this stone, but it was beautiful, so on the hot days off I would swim there. But I found him fabulous as a director, Paul. As I say, very intense. He wanted it just done the right way, and the language was a slight barrier, but I think it worked well. I hope it worked well, because I enjoyed doing it very much, and I loved working with Sergio. Sergio, I think, was about 11 at that time, Paul's son, and he was just so sweet and so good at what he did. And I remember that Paul said, "I want you to learn to ride a scooter, like a Lambretta," but he said side saddle. I thought, oh, okay, that's going to be challenging. I've never done that before. But anyway, I did learn. I did it sideways, because that's how the ladies do it. They sit sideways, kind of legs crossed. It was quite tricky, but I managed it. I had to turn up in my scooter, and I enjoyed it very much. Beautiful location. I hope it did well for him. And he in the film, not only was he the man of the house, but he also became. Has anybody seen the film? So he became all these wonderful guises. So he was a very clever chap and a very sweet man. And I had the honour of going with Sergio. He made this documentary, The Man Who Made Frankenstein Cry. He made that wonderful documentary, and it's beautifully done. It's beautifully made, and that was Paul talking all about his experiences he was a boxer, yes. He was an extraordinary man, and I was so sad because any time we'd meet at shows and things, if I do European shows, he said, "One day, Caroline, we work again." He said, "I want to work with you again." His English had got good, it was good. I said, "I love that, Paul." He said, "I will write something for us." But sadly, never to be, but Sergio is a dear, sweet man. Yeah. Nice question, never get asked that, thank you.
Hi.
Nick, hello.
Hi. This Is Your Life special that you did with Peter Cushing back in the early 90s. I don't know if you saw the picture that I left for you, but...
I did see the picture, and I love it.
Can you talk about that day a little bit? Because that was obviously towards the end of Peter's life, and he was getting up there.
Yeah, I was so surprised. It was This Is Your Life. I don't know if you have the same thing over here.
When was it? When was it done?
What year was it? Oh, I should know.
91, I think.
Which one?
1991.
It was 1991, because it was the day after I got married.
Really?
So I do remember that. I was actually wearing the same dress. I mean, that sounds odd, but it wasn't really a wedding dress, but it was a kind of lilac colour dress. So I wore that, and I was asked to do it. I was so delighted, because he was, if anybody had ever met him, and I'm sure a lot of you did, and you know how he was, wasn't he? Yes, everybody goes like that, because he was. He had your heart. He was so sweet and so sincere and so brilliant and funny and charming as an actor. I learned a lot from him. I just learned a lot. He was the master of props, I would say, because he would always turn up. I know when we did at the Earth's Core, he would turn up. He'd always come with his white gloves when we'd sit and have tea in the afternoon, which we did. The crew stopped, crew had their tea. I'd sit with Peter, we had tea, which was lovely, tea and biscuits, rich tea, I remember rich tea biscuits, very English, he was just extraordinary, and he would come with the props. I remember, and I don't know where he'd found it, but when we did at the Earth's Core, he came along with this umbrella, and it had beautiful wooden, but with goldy things, and it had the kind of a bird's head on the end. He said, "I found this, Caroline, look what I found." And he'd found it in some antique shop. which was quite amazing. So he'd turn up with amazing props. He would improvise, which I'm all for improvisation. I love that. You know, I just kind of think, you know, something interesting can happen when you improvise. Sometimes good, sometimes not good. But he was the master of that, and he was the nicest man. And he and Christopher Lee, as different as they were, like chalk and cheese, they were the best of mates. They were, when you saw them together, you thought, yes, true friends, true respect for each other.
How are they different, Caroline? How would you...
Very different. Different kind of forms of acting too, different, you know, they were all classically trained. I've had no classical training at all, other than sitting on the side of the set and watching. But they were all, had been to drama schools, RADA or Lambda or any one of those big schools in London and out of Bristol, you know, lots of the universities. The Cambridge Footlights. So a lot of these actors came from there. I didn't. So different forms of acting. Totally different, I believe, from the American style of acting over here. I remember reading a book, and it was called Scratch an Actor. It's a very old book, I believe, and it was all about Stanislavski and the method, which I'd never heard of before. I thought, golly, this is something different. So with different forms of acting. They both did, Peter and Christopher did a lot of stage, you know, which I've only ever done pantomime. So it's, he's behind you, you know, it's things like that. so not exactly, I mean, it's fun, and it's for the children, so it's a different form of thing. But they were Shakespearean.
They were different as people, though, too.
Oh, different as people, very, very different. Both actually very modest in their way. Christopher was more outgoing, you know, much more, you knew when he entered the room, you thought, wow, there's Christopher. You know, he wasn't up himself or aloof or anything, but he had a terrific presence when he walked in. You met him too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, many times. So you knew you were in the presence of somebody rather special. But he was also very giving as an actor. You know, I found working with him when I worked with him on Dracula AD, I found it extraordinary. We'd sat on the set before, and I'd been doing my knitting, and he was talking about Transylvania. We were having a good old chat, as with all I call them the Brit Pack, because we had Stephanie Beach, Michael Kitchen, Marsha Hunt. We had extraordinary actors there. Christopher Neame, but had all been to drama school, and I was the only one that hadn't. I've gone off on a tangent now. Pull me back.
Well, you were talking about the differences between Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing,
yes.
And how Christopher was more outgoing.
Yes.
And you were sitting on the set of Dracula.
I was, that's right. So he would hold fort a lot with the young people sort of sitting around him, listening to him, but not in a pretentious way. He'd just be imparting his knowledge. So, and I was listening too. So I thought my scene was coming up next, and I thought, actually, I don't want to see him as Dracula. You know, I don't want to see him before I do the scene. You know, I prefer to see what happens. So we did the build up to the scene with Christopher Neame and me on the slab, on the altar, and then we did that scene, and then the next scene was going to be me. And Christopher respected that I didn't want to see him, because I didn't want to see him. So when I did see him, when he walked through the curtains, I thought, oh my gosh. You know, the height of him, I remember looking up, and there were his eyes just peering down, piercing my eyes. And I just remember, I thought, oh, I'm not quite sure what to do. So whatever I did was what my character, I felt, would do. So I was within it. I was actually within the scene. So he helped me. He really, really helped me. Without saying or doing, it was there. So it was the right decision. But yes, he was an extraordinary man. Peter, on the other hand, they both had senses of humour. Peter's was very different. Peter's was quite quirky, and he was just so kind. He just wanted to make sure that you were okay, whatever you did, to make sure you were okay in the scene and you were happy with what was happening. So I'm sure I've rambled. I'm sure. That's what we're here for. I know. I mean, yeah.
Do you want to, this gentleman back here with your hand up?
I was
Yes.
wondering what it was like to work with Tom Baker.
With Colin?
Tom
Oh,
Baker.
with Tom. Sorry. It's my cloth ears. Oh, he was wonderful, Tom. He, golly, I was so excited to be working with him. He was talk about larger than life in every way. Had the best voice. I mean, he does. It was like Christopher. All these, beautifully trained actors. They have extraordinary voices and they resonate. But I found him again. He was the perfect choice for Kura in Sinbad. He was made such a. Yes, it was a family film, but he also made it really intense and really real. And we had a dialectician on the set to try and help us with the dialect, to get some certain dialect. But Tom got it absolutely. I think John Philip and I struggled. It was tougher for me, I think, but it was a male dialogue coach. But I think Tom got it absolutely, and he played it to the hilt. He was fantastic in the film. I think, apart from Ray's extraordinary creatures, I think maybe Tom he's got the film. I think he's the one, really. Wonderful man. And I've seen him at several shows. He doesn't do the shows now as much. I think he doesn't have to. I think people go to his home, so he entertains. I think it's one of those where but I saw him at HMV record store in Oxford Street in London, not a few years ago, and we were both looking. I didn't see him at first, and I suddenly peered over, and he was looking at the records, and I said, "Tom." And he looked up, he said, "Hello, kid." He's called kid. He was my age. I said, we had a nice chat, and it was so lovely to see him. It's just the same. Very, again, not pretentious, just very natural and just sweet. Again, when you were doing scenes with him, he would help you. Without saying it, because there's a certain look or a certain gesture, and you couldn't help but respond. So that is the art of a fabulous actor. If they can do that, if they can give you without necessarily the dialogue, then that's everything, I think, for me, a screen actor. And he had that in buckets. Spades. And spades.
I just find him fascinating in Sinbad because he is so goofy, over the top as Doctor Who.
Yes.
And then to think that he is that same actor
I know.
in a pure evil role that he pulls off so well.
He does it brilliant. We know the story how he got Doctor Who he'd gone back to, apparently, I don't know if this is gospel, he'd gone back to labouring. Gone back to just labouring, and then they found
construction.
Yes, exactly, construction. And they'd seen the Sinbad, and they thought, wow, he's kind of quite. Yes, exactly, and there he was. Yeah. They, for Doctor Who, he's quirky enough and strange enough, interesting face, and I think he's one of the best doctors ever. I mean, for me, he's a brilliant actor, and he made it his own. I know all the doctors do, but I think Tom was amazing, just extraordinary.
He's definitely one of the most memorable.
I think so. Again, it's the voice, the demeanour, just everything about him. Yeah.
And the jelly babies.
And the jelly baby. Actually, yes, that was actually the last time I saw him at a show. And he did have jelly babies there. He actually did, because there were a lot of kids would come up. And he had a tray of jelly babies. Yes. Oh.
And you have your own Doctor Who connections, don't you?
I did an episode for, what's it called?
Big Finish.
Big Finish, I did.
Yeah,
Thank
they
you.
showed it to you.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, Omega.
Yes.
With the fifth
Omega.
Doctor, Peter Davison.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Hugo Mayer. We had
Ian Collier.
Ian Collier. That was one of the most terrifying things I've ever done, because I know it's kind of boring, but I am very dyslexic, and I got the script about 2, maybe 3 days before, Jane, my agent, she said, oh, they want you for this part, Cynthia. And so I said, oh, I'll take a look at it. I looked at the script, and I looked at the dialogue and all the dialogue she had. I looked at the words, and I phoned her up. I said, Jane, I can't even read most of them. And, I can't. Because to me, I don't know if the words would be what you'd call Hoovian, but they made no sense to this little brain. And I said, can you call them up, tell them I can't do it? She said, I can't do that. I've never not done a job unless I've been poorly or, I've never pulled out, but I thought this is going to be terrifying. I'm going to be working in a studio, live, with all the other actors looking at me, not being able to read. So she phoned them up very sweetly and said to them, she's got a slight problem. She's very dyslexic and she struggles with the reading. So can it be done sort of phonically, or can you, So actually they did it that way for me. So all the words that were words I couldn't read, they'd done it that way. They'd kind of phonically done it for me in the way that my brain could compute, which was extraordinary, really. Maybe that's why I didn't do another one. Too much work, too much. Maybe, but I did it. It was terrifying, but I did it. It is. It's good to challenge yourself sometimes. It is. I do something in England. It's called Talking Pictures, which is we delve into all the old black and white films, horror films, which I'm learning about more and more all the time. It's every Friday night at 9 o'clock, and it's called the Cellar Club, and I do that. But again, it's lots of reading and learning and stuff. So it's a challenge, but the more you do, the braver you get. And having done a really long day, the first day I did that, the live readings and stuff for the television, and I came back, having gone with fear and trepidation into it, coming back I thought, I did it. It's an extraordinary, it's just a little thing, but for me it was quite a big challenge. So I think that's interesting in life. If one fears something, what is it, what they say, feel the fear and do it anyway. Doesn't always apply, but sometimes it does, and you come out of it, you're thinking, yes. It's like,
Yeah.
slightly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I sound a bit mad, don't I?
No, you
Okay.
sound like a wise, this is sage advice you're giving us all.
Oh, I don't know
You should
about
probably
that.
lead us all in meditation now.
Oh, golly.
That was really good.
Yeah.
I
Oh.
have a question.
Yes. Hello.
I have a question. Back in '75, Hammer were promoting doing a Vampirella movie.
They were.
And Peter Cushing went to the famous Monsters Convention in New Were you at any point approached to play that character? And if not, or if so, why not?
I was. There was an interesting question. So they had announced it at which
The 75 famous Monsters
75.
Convention in New York.
It had been announced that they were going to do a Vampirella. See, I didn't know that, but I was approached to do Vampirella. But the other lovely lady was. Was the film made?
They never did.
They didn't. They pulled it, didn't they?
Peter Cushing was there.
Peter Cushing was there.
Yeah, he was scheduled to be Penn.
So that was 75, probably. So that was after we'd worked together, but before we did at the Earth's Court, Peter. I was approached to do it, and I was actually flown to. I was flown to Italy, and I met with producers over there. But I would have thought it would have been an American production. I would have thought so.
Well, Michael Carreras was involved, and perhaps he was looking for backers.
Yes, maybe. Yes, possibly. Oh, maybe. But I went over there, and I read the script. They didn't give me the script before I went, but they flew me over, and I met with the producer, or wasn't the director, producer, and I don't remember his name because it was so long ago. And I read it. I read it overnight. I read it all because I felt that was important. And I came to the conclusion that it wasn't for me. It didn't seem. I can't say hand on heart, I know a lot about Vampirella. I know more now. Obviously I learned more now and know more about her. She was an extraordinary creature. There's a wonderful one walking round. Have you seen her?
Yeah.
Isn't she gorgeous,
Yeah.
Rebecca?
Yeah.
And she's so sweet.
Yes.
She's tiny, just so sweet, just beautiful. So yes, yeah, I was approached to do it, but I didn't like what I read. Now, whether that was going to be the actual script, and there seemed to be an awful lot of nudity in it. Not that it, because it didn't. Again, it's like a Modesty Blaze. I don't know if anybody knows Modesty Blaze character. Yes, who was. Yes, again, I was approached for Modesty Blaze by the writer. You know, which would have been great. Not nudity in that, and they did do the with Monica Vitti, didn't they? They made Modesty Blaze, which was fabulous. I enjoyed that. But with this one, I just didn't feel it was right for me. And I was with ICM at the time in London, the agency. So I just said, I actually don't think so, because I didn't feel it was necessary. You know, I could see her, I could get it, and I could get the kind of the cartoon of it. I could imagine it. I thought, yes, maybe I could do it, but I didn't think it was necessary then, because she was strong enough. She didn't need that in the film. It didn't actually need it in my mind. I mean, I think certainly in the 70s there was a lot of. Not that I'm against it. I'm so not against it. You know, listen, it's everybody's right to do what they want to do. It's thank goodness it's a free world.
Relatively.
Relatively, yes. Yes, relatively speaking, so we can make up our own minds. But I think, to me, it's not what you see; it's what you don't see that's more mysterious and more sexy, if you like. You know, I think, yes. Again, I've rambled, but yes, I was approached to do it, and I just said I didn't particularly like the script.
How does that compare with the reading you guys did?
The reading we did. It was my daughter played Vampy. They called her Vampy, and she was really good in the reading. I was more nervous for her than for myself, and she was so good in it. We had all these wonderful. Jonathan Rigby, a set of fantastic Shakespearean actors all reading. We just stood on stage and Joe was just in red. Very simple, not low cut, not vampy, but vampy enough, long dark hair. And I was I was sort of the director of it, but not. But yeah, it went down really very different. Very quite serious production, but fun at the same time. You know, had all these various wonderful voiceover characters reading. We just did live reading in front of the theatre. It was good. It was really, really good. I enjoyed it. And that's what Graham Humphreys has done these wonderful posters I keep signing for people. I don't know. Yeah, he did the artwork from that. And
so it was a totally different script.
Totally different script. Quite a serious script, but it had funny bits in it, quite a quirky bits. Now that would have been an interesting thing, you see. If that had been put onto film, maybe. But then in the 70s, it was a different way, wasn't it? But had it been done now, it could have worked. It still could work. You know, there's many fabulous actresses out there who could play Vampy. Yeah, it would work. Including my daughter, actually. I think she could. But then maybe I'm biased.
Does anyone else have any questions before I ask a couple more?
Oh.
I think that's a big yes. So let's
yes, hello.
Where are we going to start?
I was
Okay.
just wondering if you had any stories you could share about being part of the Dr. Fives franchise.
Oh, I love that. Do you know what? That was one of my favourite ones. Partly because I didn't have to learn any dialogue. Most of it.
So you were the motivation.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
For all of the action.
Yes, I was. Oh, I was there. My eyes were closed, but my ears were wide awake. So yes, no, that was great. I was under contract to Hammer, so I had done Dracula AD at that point, and I can't remember if I'd done Captain Cronos. It was either before or after, but in the meantime, Robert first said, could she play, to my agent, said, could she play Vincent's wife, Victoria Fives, in this film? But as I was under contract, Hammer said, no. And they said, no, you can't use her because she's our girl for now, and we've got another film for her. And then the agent came to me and the Hammer people, they discussed it. And Hammer people said the only proviso she can do it is she has no if she's not speaking, I don't think she gets paid. She can get paid, and also she has no credits. But to me, and then my agent came to me and said, well, what do you think about that? I said, I think there's no contest. I get to work with Vincent Price and all these wonderful people, so I'd love to do it. And it's not a lot of work. As I say, no dialogue, perfect. Nice costume, perfect. So yes, and he was, you bet you met him, didn't you? Vincent Price. Who met Vincent? Yes, he did. Wasn't he lovely? He was so sweet. His daughter's a chip off the old block. Yes, his daughter is Victoria. She's lovely. So working with him was a joy. Again, I watched him work, and the joy of lying in the coffin with him was very special. Slightly claustrophobic when they put the lid down. And actually, having said that, it was quite hard being the dead body. Quite tricky, because I had this beautiful gown, silken peach colour gown, but it had all these feathers around it, and I'm not good with feathers, So trying to hold your breath and lie in the coffin next to Vincent, who'd made the most beautiful pâté in the morning for me and the makeup girls, and me trying not to burp in the coffin because I was full of lovely pâté and toast. I thought, okay, we got this, but it was the feathers and so that was quite a challenge. But he was extraordinary and kind beyond kind, so sweet, so caring, with all the cast, and the crew absolutely adored him. Wonderful, special man. What a voice! Another voice, you see. They had the voice, didn't they? Yeah. Delightful film to do. And they had to have me back, I think, for the continuity.
Right.
Absolutely. Okay, so back here.
In Captain Cronos, there's a scene where you apply leeches to the captain.
Mm-hmm.
Were those real leeches they were doing?
Do you know what? There was some real, because they were in sand, as far as I remember. They were kind of put in sand, poor things. So they were real, those ones. But obviously the ones on his back were not real, because that would be cruel. I mean, think about that. That would not be nice. But yes, there were real ones. I mean, I hope they were all right. I actually don't know. I don't know what happened to them. But no, I had to apply them. I did it with kind of tweezer things, I think, as far as I remember. Yes, picking them up and then putting them on his back. And then his back looked suitably red. I don't know if the makeup had done that. I think the makeup people had put a little bit of blood on there to make it look authentic. But we did have real ones too. Yep, real thing. Everything was real back in the day. Whatever you saw, everything was done practically. All the effects and everything was done before your eyes. Mistakes, a lot of mistakes made, but a lot of good stuff too. All on camera. Different today.
I saw someone, right here.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Hello.
Hello. All right. You may have never done this.
Ooh.
It was the 60s. But when you started getting modeling contracts in films, in your opinion, was the biggest extravagant thing you bought in celebration?
Oh, what a lovely question. Going back to the 60s, when I started modelling, what was the mother in London down to Bond Street, which was one of the most expensive streets in London. And I bought her 3 pairs of shoes and me 3 pairs of boots. And that was really pushing the boat out. And it might have, I don't know how much it came to, about £60, I think. And that was really going it. But that was the first thing I remember buying. That's such a good question. And we loved my mum. She was, wonderful. Very happy girl. But yes, that was the 60s. Golly. Wouldn't get much for £60. You wouldn't get 6 pairs of shoes, would you? Can you imagine? Might not even get 1 pair.
Wouldn't get a bag of jelly babies.
Wouldn't get a bag of jelly babies. That's a lovely question. I love the 60s. I love the whole style of the 60s, the music, the fashion, and the gentleness. Peace and love. True, it was peace and love back then. Yeah.
Great questions, everyone. Thank you, Carol.
So good.
I would like to ask before we wrap up,
But we've got to wrap up.
well, we can stay. I'm sure they would be happy to have you stay for another hour, but you should probably have a bite of your banana then.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Do you, knowing you won't offend anyone in the industry, do you have a favorite role that you played?
Do I have a favourite role I played? I loved Carla. I like Carla a lot. I suppose she's mostly like me, so I had kind of an affinity with her. I feel I've been very lucky to have been in any film, you know. As I say, it wasn't my chosen profession at all. I had no idea what I was going to do, really. The school closed down, so, you know, I went to art school, and that I thought was my thing. So, I don't know, Carla I loved. Sinbad was, I had lovely locations, beautiful costumes. Bond was Bond. Different again. I'm working with, you know, working on very small budget films and then working on Bond. So it was very different ways. I say Carla, I would say, but I think actually looking back now, I enjoyed Laura Bellows in Dracula AD, because for me now, being so much older and hopefully a bit wiser, I think that as an actress, if I can tap in to the actual, you know, if I can get the nitty-gritty into the understanding of the character, which maybe I didn't as a young girl because I had no training. You know, I would just do it on instinct. I think instinct is good, but it can only get you so far. You've got to dig deeper. And I think now I'm older and I'm getting some interesting parts now as I'm older. And the vanity goes. You know, it's not about the vanity, it's searching for the reality, and I think if you can tap on that now I'm finding the parts kind of more interesting. I find the lines more challenging because I get very forgetful, so I'm very much for, I did a film a couple of weeks ago, finished the film a couple of weeks ago, and it was just me on my own, and she's going slightly mad, which isn't hard for me to do, but she's going slightly mad. And imagining ghosts. It's a ghost story. It's called The Presence of Snowgood. And she's, so it was interesting because I was on my own, you know, it was on my own, and she was imagining the ghosts. And so it's tapping into that reality that we all feel when we're going through circumstances that are beyond our control, or something wonderful's happening, or something sad's happening. And it's trying to tap into that. And I think now I've learned to tap into that, whereas before, when I was younger, I couldn't do it. So a lot of times, I look back at my films in honesty and think, I wasn't there. I was there, physically there, but I wasn't necessarily emotionally there. But now if I can tackle them and appear like I did back in the day, I feel I could have got a lot more out of it. Maybe because I didn't have the training, but that's a strange one. But yes, I've been lucky to have done all the things I've done. Some I've made terrible, awful mistakes in, and I look back and I don't really like to look at work I've done. I love to see Sinbad, and I like to see the Dracula. Bond is good to see, but some of it I think, actually, no, you didn't get it. So it's, but once you do get it, once you tap into that thing, it's like magic. It's like an electric thing. You think, yes, I was there. You know you've got that character. You know you are that character. And that's a wonderful feeling. I don't know if I've explained that very well, but I think we get it. Yeah. No, thank you.
You explained well.
Did I? Have we got to go?
Now, what I'd like to tell everyone, I know it would be easy for people to come up here and talk to Caroline, but she's actually going to go back to her table. And so if you don't mind, just let her through there, and she'll be back at her table. Are you going to take a break before you get back there?
No.
Then she
I might like a cup of tea, actually.
Well,
That's a hard thing to get, isn't it, in here?
Well,
It is
Mary-
really. I've met so many of you this weekend, and you're just delightful. You're just lovely people, and I love your passion and that you come and see us. It's great. It's a lovely show. Anthony's not here, but doesn't he do a good job?
Yes.
Anthony,
Yes.
Suzanne, they do a fabulous job. And, yeah.